We are a family of four. Okay. So our passion was born from our love for nature, studying the Word of God, and taking people into nature for camping, hiking, prayer retreats, and helping persons draw closer to God. As we made ourselves available to God, He took us country living off grid and has been training us for 7 years now. We have been, we have seen the importance of character building and God's ideal way of life. Our desire is to share this experience with everyone. So this is basically our ideal. This is basically we basically ask God to let His ideal for us be a reality. So this is how we're going to share our testimony with you this evening. Okay, sorry about that. How we're going to share our testimony with you this evening, we're going to go through our life before the country. Then we're going to go through the transition and the country life, and then the ministry. What areas that we realized were issues and how it became real to us. We will be sharing a little bit of our journey. So I like to give a little disclaimer, like I always say, we are very, very Adventist family. Yes. Not very, not the normal.
Yeah, we may not be the example of the ideal way to go country living.
Yes.
However, it shows that God can take care of his children.
So how did we learn about country living? I would say that the first place country living was born for us was way before we got married, in our separate individual life. I love nature. My husband loved nature. I was in the Pathfinder Club. I was always out camping at all the camps and everything like that. And my husband, he grew up in the country. So when we met, this would be a typical day. We would just go out. In nature, he had a lot of survival skills. So he would build up a little shelter for us to stay on. We pack our bags, put our bags on our back, and we would be out. We didn't have any knowledge of the health message.
No.
During that time, we just basically nominal Adventist.
Yeah.
So we would go, this is when we were cooking our food while we were out camping. We would pack our bags. Like I said, we enjoyed camping, hiking, just outdoors. Yeah. And the other aspect of our life, yes, we love taking people to. So yeah. People would always want to join us, like, where you're going next? Let's go. That time, I think we were in Grand Aunt's turtle watching, where we actually wait for the turtles to come on shore to see them nest and lay their eggs. Very exciting to be part of it. And we were very, very excited to take persons anytime that they felt the need to join us.
And that's why we're still living in this.
Yes. So every single weekend, religiously, any holiday that we would come across, we would ask ourselves, okay, where can we go? And we would just
outside of our obligations to church.
Yes. So we just like, where next? Okay, if we're free this weekend, we're definitely out somewhere. And persons would call us to find out exactly where we were. One of the things that this type of lifestyle brought out a lot was me asking the question.
Hold on, sister, sorry. There is still that, I'm sorry, a feedback, like it's a whistling, it's like I don't know if it's like a whistling, echoing.
I don't know what else it could possibly be, but what I can do, let me try to see if I can switch my audio up a bit.
Yeah, maybe you can mute this audio and then do another audio, because it seems like there's multiple audios going on.
Are you hearing me any better now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you don't hear any feedback. No.
Not as much.
No whistling. I don't hear any whistling.
Okay. Okay, so then I guess we can use this one.
Yeah.
So
the camera on that one is not so good.
Yeah, so we're using the camera on the other one.
Okay.
So, okay. So one of the things that we experienced as we went camping and we went hiking, we were always asking the question, you weren't born to just pay bills and die? Because this is what it felt like. We felt like every single weekend, we were basically running away from our normal lives. And
the rat race, they call it.
Yeah. So I was like, why is this? I had a good job. I worked in accounts. It paid well. Why was I not satisfied? Why wasn't it fulfilling? That was the question I was always asking myself. Yeah, like why didn't I enjoy it? It was a good job. Why can't I just be satisfied and just love the work? And that was something that I wrestled with all throughout our time. And I remember one of the things that really drew this close to home was there was one time a close friend of ours who went camping with us. He passed. Before he passed, a week before he passed, I remember seeing him and I said, hey, remember, we have to do an outing. It's been such a long time since we've hung out by the river. And we should really do this sometime. I was like, yeah, I've just been so busy. I've got school. As soon as I'm done with school, I'm going to be right with you guys. And I'm going to be taking this time for vacation. But right now, I have work up to my neck. The week after that, he passed. And I was like, kidding me. I just spoke to him. We were supposed to go somewhere together. And this really made me think, was I living to the fullest potential? Was this all there was to life? And this is one of the times where what started resonating was, what is my purpose? For me to know exactly how my life's supposed to be satisfied, how we're supposed to be, or what we're supposed to be doing, is for us to understand what our purpose was. So in all our moments of enjoying nature and just spending time outside, we would ask ourselves, what is our real purpose? What does God want us here for? I honestly find that we have, especially between the two of us, we have such we're opposites, yet we have so many things that we bring to the table. What could God possibly put us together for? And we continued asking ourselves that question. And the time that it's really resonated, yes, that's me pregnant. That's before the health message. So when we were pregnant, our son, this was a time where all of these questions started really putting pressure, and we really had to decide what exactly did God want from us? Because right now we have this little human being who's going to be part of our lives, and if our life does not have direction, how would we be able to guide him and give him direction? And one of the things God said when we gave birth to our son was, you need to train up a child in the way he should go. And when he's old, he will not depart from it. And this really resonated with me, because I'm like, Lord, I need training. This is a huge responsibility. Yeah. Like, I really do need training. How am I going to raise a child? And God was quite clear. He said, I want you guys to raise your son the way Jesus was raised. And we picked up the Desire of Ages, and we're like, okay, let's learn about what Jesus' life was. Yes. And we realized that Jesus was raised very close to nature. And as an adult, he had a lot of time that he was able to spend in ministry because he had that extra, because of the way he lived. So we so we started to study his life, and we realized that, okay, if we're going to bring him out in nature, let's get ready. Let's really get ready to do that. So if we had to go to the beach, we'd bring out hammocks, because we went camping a lot, and we'd bring him along from a very, very, very young age. we're like, Lord, you said he needs to be outdoors. He's going to be outdoors.
Yeah,
We live in a city.
so
So this is the
all we
most
can do. Yeah.
outdoors that we can get him to.
Yeah.
So we would go by the beach a lot, and every other place that we would find a little grass or something that we felt that was up to his level, because where we used to go was not necessarily up to his level. So we would take him out a lot to where we believed God would approve. So in the way, when we started reading Desire of Ages, we realized that this was already confirming our mindset. You were not born to just work, go to work and pay bills and die. There was a purpose. There was more to life. And with our son, it really became obvious that this was the need. And so we started to do a lot of introspecting and saying, like, what are the things that are in our life that really needs to go? Because if we're going to train up this child in the way he should go, we need to be an example for him to see. So where though it be, he was basically the catalyst for a lot of the transformation that happened in our lives.
Because he wanted to be a good example for him.
One of the times that understanding our purpose and what God wanted for us and his ideal for our life came when we went on a camp. This is a small cabin in the woods.
In the forest. In
the forest, yes. Quite remote.
No internet, no data,
no service.
Yeah.
And we went there with a group of friends. Not all Seventh-day Adventists, not even all Christian. And we went, everybody would always ask us, where are you going next? Is Christian, non-Christian? Because they just wanted to know. They just looked at us as the outdoor couple that really likes to enjoy nature.
Yeah, they used to call us the single couple.
Yeah, because we were always outside.
Yeah, we were like we were dated.
Yeah, we were always out. And these were our outings. So when we went to these things, persons always asked us. And I remember at this particular prayer camp, the name of that prayer camp was Finding God's Purpose for My Life. And a lot of us came with our questions for God and our prayers to God. And I brought mine as well, which was, what is my purpose? I had an underlying message that God wanted me to leave my job to homeschool my son, but I was like, that's just unrealistic for God to request. I mean, that's so weird. God would not request that of someone with a newborn almost a year. God wouldn't request that. So it was a struggle. So everybody brought their issues. And in this particular camp, all of our lives were changed. Every single one of us, from the Christian to the non-Christian who had never heard of the Bible or Jesus, he wanted a Bible at the end of that camp.
Yes.
And I was like so happy. There were others who God had asked them to leave their job because it was not glorifying his name, and they did, and they went into ministry. So it was such a blessing. There were those who came out of terrible relationships that they were in and were able to go into healthy relationships. So
speaking about, I could see even then the health message was having an effect on you.
Yes. So little by little, God was making the changes, and he was nudging at our hearts little by little as we were asking questions, as we were seeking his face. He was making it clear what his purpose was for our lives. So at that particular camp, while we were driving in, we read we read a story from E.G. White, Traveling the Narrow Way. And everybody was touched by that story, because it was read basically it was in a night driving in, and the road was very narrow and dark.
So it's like you're experiencing.
Yeah, you're experiencing what we're reading. And the passage that really stood out, for those who don't know the Traveling of the Narrow Way, it's basically Ellen White giving her
a dream she had about like the Christian experience in the end.
And it was parallel to traveling a very narrow way, and it kept getting narrower and narrower.
That was the analogy.
Yes. And then they had to depend on a rope, a white rope all the way.
A cord,
yes. Yeah. And they had to get rid of things and different stages
Baggages,
of the walk. And the passage that really stood out to us in that particular chapter of Traveling the Narrow Way, we then thought of those who had not accustomed themselves to privation and hardship. Where were such now? They were not in the company. At every change, some were left behind, and those only remained who had accustomed themselves to endure hardship. The privation of the way only made these more eager to press on to the end.
I don't think we can ever explain how comforting.
Yes, these words have been. And I remember studying those words and thinking, there is something in there for us, specifically for us. And it wasn't that we liked that type of lifestyle, yes, but there was something more than just the surface adventure which we were experiencing. I was asking, could God be using this to prepare us for something more? He had brought us together, my husband and myself especially. So the decision was cemented. God had asked me to take the sacrifice and leave my job. My husband agreed that this was a step that we needed to take.
After much deliberation.
Yes, we took a year before we made that.
After much prayer and deliberation, considering all the possibilities, and then just decided to work on it.
Yeah, it did not seem like the best financial decision. Because my husband, as a joiner, a carpenter, he works based on projects. So when the house comes, he builds it. When that house is done, he basically waits for the next project. But my job in accounts was the fixed salary, which was needed. So me leaving was a very, very big thing. And the reason we got to that point was because God had done something very amazing. I had asked him to give me directions to a particular location because I needed his help. And he gave me step-by-step directions all the way to the house, telling me 2 steps, audible voice. And after that experience, I said, Lord, anything you ask me to do, anything. Because if you can give me directions to a house that I'd never been to before, I had asked everybody for directions, and you gave me, and I'm somebody that gets lost very easily. You were able, you were able to give me directions step by step from what vehicle to take and everything. What if I give you my entire life to manage like this? What would become of it? And the first thing he asked me the first thing he said was, leave your job. I'm like, I said, I'm going to give you my entire life. I didn't think you would just take the thing that we depended on. So a year later, like I said, at that prayer camp, the decision was cemented. God had asked us to leave our job, to basically sacrifice that job for our son to homeschool.
I think the catalyst was you got to a point where you had to choose between listening to something religious or doing your work at the computer.
So God basically told me I had to choose between the two. It's either the job or you listen. And I'm like, okay, Lord, we're going to do this.
I'm done.
And this became the catalyst to our move and even the discussions of country living. Because then when I left the job and we were home with my son, my husband was getting projects and they were coming in really good. But then they stopped for a while. And they were quite abrupt. And I remember asking God, but Lord, this is what sustains us. How could you just let it end so abruptly? And what his message was to us directly was, I need you to move into the country. I told you I want you to raise your son the way Jesus was raised. I'm like, but Lord, I thought we were doing that. We brought him to the beach and to other places that's country-like, but we didn't want to take him into the country, I don't know. We didn't think of that. And it was then that we really understood that there needed to be the move. Yeah. And I remember my parents were, are you sure about this? You leaving your job and then you're just going into a place that you've never really been to. Are you sure about this? And I'm like, if you need a place to stay, you can stay by us.
Yes, that, yeah.
The church family were like, already you had left your job, and we were a little iffy about that.
And we believe God has taken care of you guys when we saw the jobs going through, but
now you want to leave this?
Yeah. I think at the time, most people believe that country living was something far down in the future.
Yes, and it's no need to
why? Yeah, and persons also believe that it's not even necessary.
Yes, so there was a lot of, we were alone. Yes. Alone. So, like there were no Seventh-day Adventists I found that really were in looking to go to the country.
Yes.
It was something that we looked at maybe to be done in the future, but like,
not now.
Why are you doing this now?
Yeah, you bring persecution upon yourself
before the time.
That's somebody exactly. Yeah.
And I remember saying, but God was the one who told us, and that we should, it was basically to raise our son this way. This was what he said, so this is why we had to do it. So in transitioning, we had to get rid of the TV. Mm-hmm. We started doing research on the health message, the healthier lifestyle.
Downsizing.
Yeah, we started downsizing. We started focusing on creating the Christian environment to raise our son, because it seemed like this was God's emphasis. Okay, you need to raise him the way Jesus was raised. So I was like, Mary had to know something about the Bible. Okay, so let me find out what these things are. So I'm like, for sure she's not watching these kind of TV shows that I'm watching. For sure. So I have to put this aside. I have to get rid of this. And while I was pregnant, the way God helped us to understand the health message, I could not eat any meat. I could not eat any cheese. I would throw up and get sick. I couldn't eat any of the things that I would normally eat. And I was like, what? These are the things I enjoy eating. I can't even have them while I'm pregnant. And I did not understand that God was basically purging my body and allowing me to understand the health message and the healthier lifestyle.
To the point where when you understood the health message, when the pregnancy was continuing, you were losing weight.
Yeah. My doctor was quite surprised. She's like, you're not getting black. You're losing the weight because you're
not getting blacker.
You don't get any blacker.
You're already black.
Yeah. And you're getting lighter and you're losing weight. Like, what is happening? Yeah, so God was making those changes in our life and helping us to do so. So spiritually, we learned that there was no better path to take than the one that God had laid before us. So he has a special purpose for each and every one of us. And one of the things that we were very, very we sought to find out was, what does he want for us specifically? Lord, what do you want for us? How can we be better vessels to even learn what you're trying to teach us? So we started reading the Bible. We started worshiping on a morning and on an evening, praying together, and just allowing God to transform our lives so that we would be ready to be parents to our son. So in the transitioning period as well, we had to learn so we were saying, God, okay, you want us to go country living? We know we don't have any money. Let's start learning some stuff to add to what we've already been learning from living our weekends every and if sports on the weekends we use our survival skills to go backpacking and camp out.
Just take the map, point at any spot that looks remote and go to it.
So now we had to do a little bit of a transitioning to
now it's going to be more permanent.
It's a permanent basically a permanent
because we had no money and we won't be buying any land, so we didn't know what God was going to provide. But I guess
we knew, not having money, what could you possibly afford? And I remember.
So we planned for the worst.
Yeah, that's what we did. Yeah. We did. So we started thinking of alternatives. Yeah. We started looking at alternative sources of energy. Putting off the power to our apartment sometimes.
See how long we could live without it.
Yeah, recycling and repurposing items like our old stove, and using our survival skills and sharpening them in other areas. So this is our old stove.
You call it old stove?
It was a good stove.
A small stove, but a perfectly good stove.
But you
had the idea. Go ahead.
That we could try using it as instead of.
You have to say that you had the idea.
I had the idea that we take it outside and we try making it a wood burning oven or stove.
2 weeks I obliged. I'm like, that sounds possible.
And this was it. So we put the wood in there where you see the red fire, and on the other picture you see the oven opened, and we would bake the bread.
Yeah, the fire would pass through the inner walls and go up for a chimney. So the fire wouldn't actually go into that
the bread making chamber. But it still had the wood flavor that you like in a stone oven.
Yeah.
So this is a short video of what it looks like and how it works.
And you could tell we live in the city.
So this was one of our cooking experiment
that worked,
and it didn't burn. You didn't get smoke.
It worked.
We expected, it worked pretty well. We expected to be a lot of smoke because you're using wood, but amazingly, it didn't bring. And we were in like the middle of the city.
Yeah, and
so
you haven't mentioned the fact that the young people were coming.
Oh yes, and the young people would enjoy coming over from the church because we lived
on the other side of the church,
like on the main road.
Yeah.
So the young people come over and we make bread and we bake pizza and all that type of stuff. And when we would take them camping, and there were a lot of ways that we decided to use that we could cook, even when we went to the country. So these were experiments that we did even before we actually moved into the country. So this is basically a log.
A Swedish torch.
Swedish torch. My husband splits and
I used the wire. Well, I didn't have a chainsaw at the time, so it would be much easier to do with a chainsaw. But you split it, and I tied it so I wouldn't break apart. And you light the fire in the middle.
And you put the pan.
And you put the pan on there.
Yeah. So by the time the pan of water is done, you're good.
It's pretty hot. It cooks pretty fast.
So the other option that we considered was getting solar panels, because we knew that we
had solar panels,
but like on the backpack. So when we went camping, we would take a small solar panel with us.
So we could charge and stay in touch in case we needed help or emergency.
So we just took.
I miss that blade, girl.
Yeah. So we just took a bigger one, a little bigger, and we got that one for charging up our phones, and then we got a different one.
Well, that was donated to us.
Yes, for charging our lights.
Yeah, somebody really liked our lifestyle, and he said, "I have this solar light that I don't use," and he donated that to us. Each light there lasts at least 8 hours. Yeah, I mean, I had 3 of them.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was a blessing.
So we looked at the alternative sources of energy in our transitioning to understand what we would be getting ourselves into. The other way that we transitioned was starting to downsize. In our apartment, we decided to quarantine ourselves in one area of the apartment.
Yeah, small section.
And we tried to see how long we could live there. We also tried to see how long we could stay without electricity as well.
That's right.
So we'd put off the power in our apartment and we'd see how long could we stay in there.
I think during that time we started packing up.
Yeah.
We didn't know where we were gonna go. I think we listened to Lemon has a sermon where he says that he said he didn't coin the term, but he said if it's God's will, it's God's will. And we believe that God was fully able to provide. So we started packing up and we had not a clue
where we were going. Not at all.
Yeah.
So what we did do, we didn't have any other Seventh-day Adventists who had their country living homes which we could have visited.
Okay.
But what we did do was go to a farm of a friend.
Oh, yes.
Who loved the outdoors similar to us. And she basically invited us on her farm.
Yeah.
And that day, she was basically teaching us how they did their bowls. Because when we went there to eat with them, to experience the farm, she took us around, she harvested some of the food. She told us about her own experience of living her job because she didn't feel satisfied.
Can I add that she was the only voice of encouragement at the time?
Yes, she was.
A non-Seventh Adventist was the only voice of encouragement, while most persons were saying, nah, country living, don't do it.
Yeah. So she taught us how to make our own calabash bowls because we knew that God wanted us to move off grid. So we were looking at all the ways that we would have to be able to sustain ourselves, knowing fully that we would not have any money.
Well, not as much at least.
Yes, to be able to buy everything that we would need. Yeah. So we started learning how to make our own bowls. So we would cut a calabash. When we were at her place, we cut the calabash in half, and then you scrape out all of the stuff that's inside. Then we use the turmeric to give it a color and to make it nice and dry. We put it in the sun. Yeah. And then you have your bowls, and then you can put in your food, and something similar to this, what she cooked for us from the farm, the breadfruit.
Actually, that was the actual picture.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what she prepared for us today, and we had that in our calabash bowls, and we were like, wow, this is amazing. I really want to live like this.
Yeah.
And so we were very, very encouraged.
Yeah, because she had left her job, and she said that she was able to buy like 10 times more property because she was living in the country, whereas she would have gotten a small lot if she had to buy land closer to the city. So she was really encouraging to us. She was saying like, this is a good idea. This is a good idea.
Yeah. And
she hasn't regretted her decision.
Yes. And so when we found out about the calabash bowls and all of these things, like, yes, we have our cups, we have our bowls.
We know how we're gonna get bowls.
Yeah. So we made our checklist. We're like, okay, we have to get a calabash tree. So we started making the plan in our head as to how we were going to move.
Really minimalistic.
Because we knew that with using we knew that we would have been off grid. And we wanted to prepare for it. We knew that the skills that God had given us, He would have expected us to at least utilize it.
Yeah, to demonstrate what that kind of country living is like.
Exactly.
Because a lot of persons have the finances and they can do this really nice country living. What about the people that don't have money?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's where we fit in. We were the demonstrators of how do you go country living with no money?
Okay, so another thing that we had to consider was it was kind of a dramatic move. Everybody saw it as drastic because we went from living in the city, basically on the main road, to packing up and going out into the country on basically raw land with the goal and aim to
make it into something.
So it was very worrying for I guess our church friends and everybody else. Though. We were excited.
We were excited. This is like we camp every weekend. This is like camping a lifestyle.
Yes. So we had watched a lot of DIY videos and we were practicing a lot of the things that we learned we learned about the minimalistic lifestyle, how we're going to cook, how we're going to rain harvest. We started practicing that as well.
That's true. We got some rain barrels and everything.
So then it was, are you actually ready to go out into the country?
Yeah.
And in 2015, October, we decided yes. We packed up a truck and we brought all of our stuff from the city and just packed it on to our the location that we were going to be moving in. This is a passage that really encouraged us. In Christian experience, the Lord permits trials of various kinds to call men and women to a higher order of living and to a more sanctified service. Without these trials, there would be a continually falling away from the likeness of Christ, and men would become imbued with a spirit of scientific, fanciful human philosophy, which would lead them to unite with Satan's followers. So we did not understand completely yet that this was going to be our experience.
Our testimony.
Yes, our testimony. But in hindsight, this was what we learned would have been our experience. So as it pertains to our, when we moved into the country, we chose to, instead of going to look for a job, we chose to work the land,
prepare the place.
And prepare the place and get ourselves settled.
Yes.
Our aim was, since we had basically $300 and the remnants of my husband's wood workshop, this was what we had. And all of the barrels that we'd said we were going to use for rain harvesting, our solar panels, our clothes, and some food storage.
All in barrels.
All in barrels. We came down with very little. And our aim was to get out of debt, because we had a little bit of debt in the city, to clear off our rental apartment. And what we intended to do was to settle onto the land, cultivate it as we got there, since we would have no bills. Any income that we would make would be used to get out of debt and, of course, to take care of ourselves.
And because we live so simple.
Yes, because we live so simple. So we intended to use our food storage and plant. So we learned about what food would grow in what spaces of time, what food would you get in a month, what would you need to grow long term. We both had skills that would allow us to work away from a physical location. So I am a writer, as well as I do accounts, and I have business skills as well, business management.
So you're writing at the time.
So in the beginning, when we just got there, we did not do anything. We were like, probably the first couple months, we were intensively trying to get settling.
You never mentioned how we got to this.
Oh yes, I did. Sorry, I left that part out.
Yeah. At the time when we were searching, I was having a conversation with my dad, and I told him, I'm really looking to move out of the city and to move in the country. Does the family have any land that I don't know about that I can move on to? And he was telling me there's this land far up in the hills, but he'll take me there. He'll take me there and show me the place, but you don't think I should go and live there. And I went to look at the place, and it's really steep and everything. And I'm like, guess, Lord, if that's what you're providing for me, I guess I'll do it, but this doesn't look right. But then in conversation with him, he eventually told me, there's this other property, lower down. You could live there. If anybody ever tells you anything, just tell him your father told you to be there.
This was where he lived.
Yeah, that's where he was raised as a child. So then that's where we are now. So then, so we were packed up. We didn't know where we were going. A conversation with my dad, I learned that there was land that I could have been on, and I thank God for that. So we because of how it happened, it was the only option that God put in front of us at the time.
Yes.
There was nothing else that it presented. So we decided we're gonna make the move.
And one of the ways that God confirmed that it was that particular location was, God told us to go where your food is coming from.
Yes, because things had gotten bad in the city. Now this is strange. Things had gotten bad in the city for us because the work had stopped coming in. I used to go down there to get food to bring up, because it's an abandoned farm, kind of mango grove. So I used to go down there to get food for the family often. Not really planting anything there.
No.
It's just going to harvest and stuff. So then when God said where the food come from, that was a no-brainer. Like I know where our food comes from.
He opened the exact location based on your conversation
Yes,
with Dad.
like that, yeah.
So these two things went hand in hand. I was like, okay, Lord, this is the place that you want us to be, then fine. So the soil had a lot of work.
That's a recent picture, right?
Yes, it is. So this is what we started with.
Yeah, that's the good part. Lower down was orange.
Didn't have any worms.
Yeah, not a worm was found when we were plowing. So that was orange soil that is looking like, this is the recent picture. I see the aloes there, but that's not the recent picture of part of where we got it.
Yeah. So we started, we made our main focus before we focused on the house. We wanted to ensure that we had a garden. So we started planting and deciding on where everything would be. So designated a space. And then this was the small cabin that his dad grew up in as a boy that was on the land. This is where we lived. This whole cabin was like for like 100 years old.
Yeah, once we built our cabin.
Yes, so we stayed in this one and we stored our stuff in there while we waited, while we started building our own. We didn't have any money, so we knew that this was the option that we had. And a lot of us in the Caribbean, when we come to country live, we don't always have the option, especially those that don't have funds, of finding a location with houses on it or with a cabin on it.
Let me just add, because we moved down there, I was able to get a job in Sufred. We were able to buy some more material. And because we live so simply, like we were saving every dollar. Because I remember at the time we used to go into the supermarket and say, "Oh, we're not buying that. We're not buying that. We don't need that. We're growing that." So then I think we used to just buy flour and rice and salt and peas or something like that. That's all we used to buy. So then we were able to save a lot of money, pay off all our debts, and able to buy some more materials to build
our own cabin. So in the Caribbean, land goes for like $15,000 per acre and more. And when you find country,
that's about the lowest.
Yeah, you'll ever get it. And at $15,000, you're not looking at electricity, you're not looking at running water.
No,
it's remote.
Yeah, it's abandoned farm or just never used property. Virgin land, basically.
Yes. So we knew that with God taking us through this process, if we were able to go through it, we knew that he could provide for other persons to go through it, or he can put us in a position where we can help others to go through it as well. So we basically had to build a cabin with hand tools.
Yeah, but that's the second cabin. No?
Yeah. So the garden and the home, the places that we built it were because of this was the place that God had provided for us. When it came to homeschooling, our son was basically with us in every little step of the way. One of the things that had happened in our experience that really shook, especially my faith, was when my son fractured his leg.
And that was early on in the move.
Yes, that was really early in the move. And I remember thinking to God, like, Lord, how could you allow this to happen? We were obedient. You were the one who told us to go out there.
Hairline fracture.
It was a hairline fracture, but I was still like, Lord, how could you allow this to happen?
We never expected any bad thing to happen.
Exactly.
Because, we're living by faith and obeying the commands of the Lord.
As you can. Yeah. So how could bad things happen?
I mean, come on.
So when this happened, we were very devastated. And I remember I felt like God had just pulled the rug from underneath us. And this was when Satan was really pressing on my heart, like, maybe you all should just leave that alone.
Yeah.
You have a good enough resume. You could just go back and get a job, put your son in school, or just forget about this. I mean, it was an adventure. Yes, hippie hooray, you did this.
Yeah.
You can take it off your bucket list and just go back to living a normal life.
Yeah.
And so it was really pressing upon my heart, those things. And these are the passages that really stood out to encourage
Comforting.
and comfort in those times.
Mm-hmm.
I was brought to the great disappointment at the point where Jesus did not come.
Mm-hmm.
They had done the will of God in following the guidance of his spirit and his word. Yet they could not understand his purpose in their past experience, nor could they discern the path before them. And this is how I felt at the time. This is how we felt like, Lord, I don't even understand why you allowed this to happen.
We never even expected this.
I didn't expect this.
Mm-hmm.
They were tempted to doubt God, and so were we. I was at the point where I'm like, Lord, I don't even know what to believe anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And at that particular time, but now bowed down by disappointed hopes, they could stand only by faith in God and in his word. The scoffing words were saying, you had been deceived. Give up your faith and say that the Advent movement was of Satan. But God's word was declared, if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. And I started going back and studying. Lord,
Wow.
Did I misunderstand your leading? Was it not you telling us all throughout this experience that this is where we were supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
You were the one guiding us at every point.
Yeah.
If we look stupid now, Lord, it's on you. You're the one who told us to be there at this time.
And that's when we understood the ministry of trials.
Yes.
Yeah.
To renounce their faith now and deny the power of the Holy Spirit, which had attended the message, would be drawing back towards perdition. They were encouraged to steadfastness by the words of Paul. Cast not away, therefore, your confidence. Ye have need of patience for yet a little while, and he that shall come will come and will not tarry. Their only safe course was to cherish the light which they had already received from God, hold fast to his promises, and continue to search the scriptures. And that is exactly what we did. Patiently waiting.
I can remember we used to say that, thank God that we can doubt and have these down moments when actually there's no Sunday law, and it's not like our souls.
Mm-hmm. It's under the close of probation.
Yeah, it's not the close of probation. And it was okay to go through this and doubt and go through these hard times. Because if we had waited until the close of probation to do this,
it would have
move,
maybe would have gone back.
Yeah, because I would believe that moving at the close of probation is a much rougher, a much more primitive move, if anything else.
And this was a very difficult time. And one of the things we said, even when everybody was discouraging us, because you could think our church family, our home family could be like, I told you guys, this was not the thing I was supposed to be doing anyway. I'm sure now God has let that happen to you guys. I'm hoping you're going to learn the lesson. But instead, God used these passages to encourage us and tell us, no, you need to continue to go forward. This is where I want you.
I want to say that one thing that also stayed on my mind, because there was this one brother who said, if not you guys to move into the country in St. Lucia, who will? Yeah. Who should?
Who will?
Because we were the nature couple. We were the people that was always in the forest.
The survivalists.
The survivalists, always in a camp. If not you guys, who?
And then that really struck a chord. So what has been our experience country living?
Oh, it has been a lot of fun. I see our lovely picture of the garden. I guess I can explain how we got the garden. Mm-hmm. After we discovered that the land wasn't all that, we started practicing, trying many different processes to try to get the land to produce food, but eventually realized that just observing nature and paying attention to nature is what really, really works. So then we knew of yoga culture and permaculture and horticulture and many cultures. They have many cultures, not only agriculture, they have many cultures. Agriculture is just more popular. So then we decided we're gonna combine all of the things we knew into gardening to give us our best chance of having a successful garden, because stuff wasn't really going down there.
Yeah, people told us stuff would not grow.
Yeah, my father told me,
you wouldn't
you
grow
could be
anything
there, but
there.
you ain't gonna grow anything there. And we've grown everything there.
Yes.
So then what we did, we dug ditches for every bed, every ditch, every bed. So we dug ditches and we placed rotten wood from all the trees they had to cut down to clear out to get light into the place. We cut them down, and at the time we didn't have a chainsaw.
So the smallest piece.
Yeah, so we cut them. We dug ditches for every bed. Then we'll cut them down to smaller pieces, and that's my son. If he's axe, don't tell him it's not an axe. Don't tell him it's not an axe. And so that's me trying to cut down a lot of labor. I became healthier. I detox down there.
Yeah, everything was a lot more primitive.
Yeah, I had a lot more energy though. We ate 2 meals a day.
Yes.
And we had a lot of energy. That makes no sense, but that's how it was. So what we do is cut the logs would be the first layer, and that's the reason for that is so even when there's drought, those rotten logs would have soaked in water, so that even though there's a drought, your plants would still have a reservoir down in the soil.
Yeah, so these logs will go into the ditch.
After that, then we'll cover the logs with as much organic matter as possible. I guess if they come to our
the seminar that you
seminar, they'll get more detail, but yeah, this is a rough one. So then we'll put as much organic material there, green and brown. The green is for nitrogen. I don't explain that now. So then, and then we'll cover it back up with soil. They would layer compost over it. We would make our own compost because we can't get to buy compost readily in Senegal. I mean, for those countries, let me tell you, you have to be quite creative. And that's why I always say creative is our friend. So you can see the bed down there that is not covered yet with the mango leaves from the prune trees. And this one is covered. And I'm now putting compost on
that's a black little patch there.
And then this was the result. This is, after we put the compost, I would cover everything with leaves. Because we try to mimic the forest. The forest floor is always covered. And this helps with suppressing weeds. And it's feeding the soil. I don't exercise. Yeah, I really don't think it. So then this is what worked for us. With collaboration, manure and everything. And we went from not being able to grow food to having abundance and growing all kinds.
Yeah, things that people said we could not grow.
Corn, which is a heavy feeder. If you know farming, corn is a heavy feeder. Organic corn, that is. To the point where we're able to grow corn. If you can grow corn on your soil.
And cabbage.
And papaya, which somebody told me my uncle told me has tried growing it there. It didn't grow. So then, we still have, and they taste pretty good. So then, this was our garden experience. We had a lot of experimentation. We tried to make our own version of the rocket stove, not using concrete this time, but using clay because concrete is something you have to buy.
And you look for what is available around you.
Yes, readily available. And use safety as a friend. So this is a rocket stove that we made. This is another stove that we had where you use a transmission, and you have charcoal in there, and you can cook. One of the things I used to do on camps, I would be able to make an oven out of almost anything. I don't even have all the pictures. Out of stone, galvanized, whatever we find. Wherever I go camping, I'll be able to make an oven out of it. So that's one oven we did back in the day.
And what it basically demonstrates is, and I remember what we told the persons that we're going camping with, go and get all the scrap that you can possibly find.
We'll make stuff out of it.
We're going to make something out of it. And this was the concept that we use in our country living experience. All of the scrap, everything that you can scavenge, bring them all over, assess what you have, and let us see what we can make with
creativity is the biggest resource.
Yes. And
not finances, because we didn't allow the lack of finance to limit what we would be able to do.
Yeah. So this is basically when they came up with all of the scrap, all of the stones. This was what we were able to make.
Yeah, and we baked in there. I mean, you could see stuff even burning. So but this is the mud oven that we built, and I see bread there.
Yeah, we baked bread. Let me tell you, we made pizza in there.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because one of the things that we noticed when we were on that property we had a lot of clay.
Yeah, that's why things
So-
are not growing, because it's clay.
Exactly. So one of the things, when you find that something is a detriment to you and you
Yeah.
can't grow because of it,
Yes.
you can take it and
And
make
turn
it into something.
every there's a rule that says every problem is a solution opportunity.
Yeah.
Every problem is a solution opportunity. So the problem was food wasn't growing because the soil was really bad. However, that problem is you have an abundance of food.
Mm-hmm. So we made use of it.
So we made use of clay, rocket stove. We got to the point where the Lord blessed us to have the funds to buy a chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember how we got the funds, but yeah, we were able to buy a chainsaw. So then stuff became easier. We were able to cut down some trees. Here's my wife milling away. So that stuff I was a joiner for most of my adult life, but I am still a joiner now. And that's the part of joining I never got to do. I always wanted to do that. But now that we were in the country, we had those opportunities. Something else we pick up after moving to the country was beekeeping, to the point where now persons call us. Well, it's been a while, nobody hasn't called us yet, but persons would call us to come and take out beehives in their homes or roofs, what have you. This is a picture. Some people might not enjoy this, but this is a picture of one of the hives that we took out from somebody. And this is our new addition, Ellie. This is a picture inside. Eli is washing his dishes. And this is a picture from inside the house.
So we continue to learn God's ideal. And when we were giving birth to our daughter, we decided to have a home birth.
Yeah.
And of course, when God said that we should do that, we were like, oh, Lord, you always give us the weird things to do.
Craziest thing to do.
Yeah.
And not so crazy to have a home birth.
Yeah. So in doing the research, and my husband was basically my mid-husband.
Yes.
So it was a beautiful experience. It was a very, very beautiful experience. And I look much healthier than the last pregnancy because we did it God's way. And one of the things that it really sounds weird because giving birth off grid, especially at home, there was a lot. Imagine having the stove outside, the stove outside,
yeah.
and you have to bring in, like, you need hot towels, so you have to go outside, get the hot towels, bring them inside. So my husband was outside and inside, and it was just
There's a point where I almost gave up. And I'm like, this is too much work. But I'm like, hey, she can't say that.
Yes.
So
God's way is the best way. And one of the things that we realized, and especially for work, we used our writing. My husband used his skills in building, in fabricating.
Yeah, I'm good with my hands. Just put
everything that we found
a challenge.
Yeah, so one of the things that we started selling was our dry coconuts, and we would sell our fruits, and all of these things were income that we could use. And because we lived a very minimalistic lifestyle,
we had no choice but to be minimalistic.
The job was not necessarily the main priority.
No.
So when we lived in the city,
time.
The main priority, you need to have a job.
Because you have to pay the bills. You have to pay that rent.
But with us living out in the country where we didn't have any bills, work was an option.
Or we could have lived comfortably with less.
Yeah.
Less money.
Yes. So working was not necessarily you had to do a 9 to 5 every single day for the rest of your life. It was something you could choose to do today and not do tomorrow. So this was the flexibility that we really appreciated in living the way that we did.
To be aware of new videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Preparing for the Time of Trouble channel. For more free videos and downloadable audio podcasts, as well as handouts, go to www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. Topic categories include recordings of live seminar presentations, country living, sustainable gardening, homestead remedies, how to be self-sufficient when the grid goes down, wild edible and medicinal plants, hydrotherapy, and end-time Bible prophecies. To take advantage of these free resources, go to preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.